Hello everyone and welcome to a new IK video. This is Kincaid from server 423. I'm still here, and in this video I'm gonna talk about, since I've got a lot of questions asking about the current meta for the mid spenders. I've got a very powerful march that I'm gonna showcase in this video. I might actually change. I'm not sure if I can actually change into this march because I don't have the shards for the immortals that I'm going to use. But anyway, I'm going to use this march. It is kind of a cheap march if you'd like to build it, considering the immortals that are being used in this march. However, for the skills, I'm not quite sure to be honest. But anyway, let's get into it. The immortals that we are going to use, I'm going to talk about the replacement later after I finish the main march. But mainly we're going to use Alexander the Great. He's going to be one of the best immortals to use, one of the most powerful immortals in the game that are available to everyone, free to play and spenders. And the second immortal is gonna be a shadow immortal, which is Bjorn. Unfortunately, I don't have Bjorn maxed in this account, but I'm gonna try to uh, figure out how we're gonna use the lost skill. Anyway, as for the back row, we can use either Matilda or we can use King Emperor. And since we're going to use Genghis Khan, we already have wounds on the back row. It is better to use Matilda, since the buffs that she provides for the back row or the entire march is actually very powerful. King Emperor could be better in some situations since he provides a lot of attack speed for Alexander. But in this scenario, I think Matilda could be better since we are going to use Genghis, and Genghis will be the main damager in this march. As for the dragon, I see a lot of people are using Earth Dragon for this march, and I think it is the best choice. However, I think only few people have been using the Lightning Dragon, and I could debate that the Lightning Dragon could be better because of this skill here, which increases the damage for the Lightning Immortals, which in this scenario could be Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan is the main damager, so we could use the damage increase buff from the dragon. It is up to 15%, and 15% damage increase is a lot of damage for your main damager. So this is the march that we are currently using, and we're gonna showcase the skills that we can use in this march. Let's just remove all these skills first. We are missing a skill on Bjorn, but that's fine. Let's remove this as well. All right, I think the most important skill that you can get for this march is definitely Energy Mastery. Energy Mastery is probably one of the most powerful skills in the game, if it's not the most powerful. The skill is so broken. It increases once you release the energy skill, or the immortal releases his ultimate skill, he immediately restores 400 energy and increase your energy skill damage by 100% for 9 seconds. And by the way, the first cast, you could think that the damage increase is not available in the first cast, but the damage is increased immediately after he releases the energy skill. He did not deal the damage yet, he just released the energy skills, and the bar of the energy disappeared. Then he gets the damage increase. So from the very first cast, he gets the additional damage. I tested it so many times against opponents in arena or in KVK or in actual BVB, and I'm 100% sure that the damage increase applies first, and then the damage that comes from the immortal hits the immortal or your opponents. The second skill, or the most important skill that we can use on a back row immortal, is definitely Fighting Master. Fighting Master, one of the most important skills that is free to play, available for everyone, and it is a purple skill, so kind of cheap to use. And the skill is so OP. It reduces the damage by 10%, but that's not why we are using the skill. It gives you immunity to control, and that's exactly why we need the skill. The last skill could be an orange skill, which is Time to Shine. Time to Shine is so powerful. It increases your crit ratio by 35% and increases your physical damage by 30%. Kinda the ideal skill that you can use for an immortal such as Genghis Khan. He deals a lot of physical damage by his ultimate skill. They buffed his ultimate skill. Not recently, it has been a while since they buffed the skill. I believe the skill was at some point 440% at max level. Right now it is 500% damage at max level, and the damage is increased by 30% if you have the exclusive artifact for Genghis. And of course, the signature skill for Genghis Arstorm applies wounds, which is why everyone is using Genghis nowadays. Alright, so these are the skills for Genghis for the mid spenders or the high spenders, people who actually can afford the red skills. As for Matilda, we're gonna use the life protection, kinda the most OP skill that you can use on a support immortal. And by the way, I'm building this march in conquest season, so if you are in a legendary season or maybe you're in season 2, I don't think you will have access to most of the skills. I know right now that the red skill is available in season 2 up to level 6. I'm not sure in season 1, but in conquest or legendary season, I believe there are way more skills when it comes to the legendary tier skills, so keep this in mind. As for the second skill, I believe that we can use assist. Assist is mainly to protect Genghis Khan, and the last skill could be an aura skill. Let's see here. If you're up against a magical team that is dealing a lot of damage, I believe Master Aegis could be a good choice, or maybe Malice if you are against a Loki March or a Himiko March. There is a couple of skills that you can swap between if you have all these skills. And of course, we can use Fountain of Life. But the reason I don't like using Fountain of Life on a support immortal that is using assist is that assist is actually making this immortal vulnerable. He takes a lot of damage because he protects Genghis Khan from the damage. So I don't like using Fountain of Life on a support immortal. I like to use it on a defense immortal because the defense immortals kinda tanky and they can take the damage and they have a lot of resistance. They have a very high physical defense, so they can actually tank a bit. They will not lose lots of troops at the beginning of the fight, and the more troops that you have, the more heals that you will be able to apply to the rest of the march. So using Fountain of Life on a defense immortal such as Bjorn here is the perfect choice because he will be able to sustain, he will not lose a lot of troops, and he will be able to provide lots of heals. Right, the second skill that we can use probably is gonna be Oaken Guard or Resist. It depends on what kind of march you're up against. However, lots of people right now are using physical teams or physical damage marches, so I believe in maybe 75% of the situations is gonna be Oaken Guard. We can use an aura skill in Bjorn as well if you have him maxed. Of course, it's gonna be either Malice. Well, the aura skill can be replaced between the march itself, but I believe Weakening Curse could be a very good option as well if you're up against an Alex Ethan Chen march. These marches are so annoying, so Weakening Curse is definitely one of the best skills to use against Alex. Or you can use weakness. Weakness is actually here so important because it reduces the resilience rate, and as I always say, less resilience means you can apply more crits. And since you are using timed shine, and of course you're gonna use, I'm gonna talk about the specializations of course later on in the video, but using Genghis Khan is you're gonna be, I assume you're gonna be using the crit specialization, the one that increases your crit ratio and your physical damage. So using Malice could be a very good choice as well. As for Alex, I believe there's not a lot of skills to think about when it comes to Alex. It's gonna be Knife Through Butter, and the one that triggers additional normal attacks, I believe it was Wind Rage. I definitely have the skill here. Yeah, Wind Rage. And finally, we can use Fully Prepared. If you do not have Fully Prepared, I believe there is an orange skill that could replace it, which is Iron Curtain, but Fully Prepared, of course, is way better. These two skills works like magic, because Knife Through Butter triggers after 6 normal attacks. There is a 60% chance to reduce the energy, but the damage applies every 6 normal attacks. Yeah. So landing the 6 normal attacks deals physical damage. This is a 100% chance and has a 60% chance to reduce the target's energy. Since it counts on normal attacks, we use Wind Rage to gain a chance to trigger another normal attack, which is a 55% chance. So these two skills are so important together. You're gonna see a lot of people are using these two skills together, and of course, some people would like to use drastic action, but I think Wind Rage and Knife Through Butter on Alex specifically could be better. And of course, since we have fully prepared, Alex is gonna be so tanky because it also counts on normal attacks. So each normal attack increases the damage you deal by 60% up to 10 stacks, which means it's gonna be 60% damage increase, and it reduces the damage taken by 5%, also 10 stacks, which means Alex, after 10 normal attacks, he will reduce the damage taken by 50%. So in this scenario here, Alex is gonna be so tanky, and he's gonna deal a lot of damage using Knife Through Butter and Wind Rage, including his normal attacks as well, because Alex have a very high damage on his normal attacks. Let's take a look at his skill. So he got a passive that increases the normal attack damage by 50%, and his skill turns into a passive completely if you have the explosive artifact. However, there is a bit of a nerf. Instead of the 50% damage increase and the 50% attack speed, you get only 35% damage and 35% attack speed. Right, so this is the final look on the March. If you do not have Bjorn, you can use an immortal such as Yi Sun-Shin. I believe Yi Sun-Shin could be very good on this March as well. So let's use the same skills that we would use on Yi Sun-Shin. We have Fountain of Life, and here we can use, so it's gonna be either Weakening Curse, or we can actually use the Spring of Life. Spring of Life is so good on this March because Spring of Life and Fountain of Life kind of have a huge synergy together, because each time you heal, you reduce the damage that you receive by 15% and increase the heals that you get by 25%. And of course, this triggers for 3 seconds only. And fortunately, we have Fountain of Life that triggers every 3 seconds. Every 3 seconds, it applies heal to the entire March, and it increases the heals effects by 20% and 15% or 25% from Spring of Life. So you get actually 45% heals and 15% less damage. So this is actually a very good idea to use both skills together. And of course, Weakening Curse is going to be a situational skill. You can replace for weakness, you can replace for Oaking Guard, you can replace for resist, maybe even energy suppression sometimes. And of course, the Master Ages is also a situational skill. It depends on what kind of March you're up against. Maybe you can use weakness, as I mentioned, or let's see here, maybe Oaken Guard or resist. Not a lot of choices when it comes to the aura skills, especially for the big spenders marches. Anyway, let's talk about the specializations for this march, and let's start with Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan is the main damage dealer, and since we are using a skill that amplifies his critical damage, and maybe we can even use weakness, I believe we should be using the Deadly Aim. Deadly Aim increases your crit rate by 30%, and it increases your physical damage by 50% at max level, which helps him deal more damage, and since he got more critical chance, more damage will be applied by his ultimate skill. This is for Genghis. If you do not have, or if you do not like to use to count on the critical chance, maybe you can use the concentration stance, which exactly what I'm doing on my Apollo right now, because I don't have my Apollo very high on my other account, so I'm using concentration chance. It has a little bit more damage. Instead of 50% damage, it increases the damage by up to 65% at max level, and it increases the accuracy by up to 25%. However, Stellar Rain is so useless, don't even think about using this one. As for Matilda, the only one that you can use is Battle Excitation. It has a bit of an initial energy. It increases the initial energy by 200 at the beginning of the fight. And it increases the damage for the back row, the other back row immortal by 40% at max level. I believe this is one of the best specializations that you can make use of. And this is the current meta right now. Right now, everyone is using support immortals thanks to this specialization. The 40% damage increase is kind of a big deal, especially for an immortal that already have a skill such as energy mastery. I don't think any of the two other specialization can actually come close to the battle excitation in this scenario. As for Alex, of course, we're gonna use the one that increases the attack speed, which is Night Spirit. It increases the damage by 50% and increases the attack speed by 30%, which is exactly why we use it. We need to make sure Alex applies as much as normal attacks as possible to trigger the KDB skill. And of course, the more normal attacks, the more Wind Rage will be triggered as well. The faster he will actually get all the stacks for fully prepared. And finally, as for the defense immortal, whichever defense immortal that you are going to use, I believe Fearless Stance is the perfect specialization to use. It reduces the damage by 25% and increases the resilience ratio by 25%. And the resilience, more resilience means the higher the chance he will not receive critical damage. So this is everything I need to you need to know about the march that is you can build with cheap immortals and legendary skills. As for the exclusive artifacts, for Jankies, if you're going for the crit, I believe using a physical attack bonus on all scenarios is the perfect one. As for the secondary effect, is gonna be Annihilation. Annihilation if you're going for the crit. If you're not going for the crit, or if you're not going to use Time to Shine or Weakness, I believe Iron Fist could be the better choice. As for Matilda, you just need the Surge secondary effect. I don't think the dodge value does anything, or the dodge percentage actually could change anything. You just need the surge and that's it. As for Yi Sun Chen, I believe either resilience rate or defense increase could be good, because right now lots of players are using or counting on the critical damage, so resilience is actually could be very powerful. The defense is also very powerful because there's a lot of people who are using physical attacks as well. Growth, I believe, is the perfect secondary effect that you can get, because it works against both magical damage and physical damage. However, guard only works against physical damage. As for Alex, you need rapid. Rapid is the most important and the most OP secondary effect you can get for an Alex artifact. And of course, the physical attack bonus, the main attribute should be physical attack bonus. I believe, yeah, this is a good artifact actually. My Alex have kind of a very high physical attack. Yeah, 16,000. This is a decent amount. And if we actually add this and an Earth Dragon, it could increase, right? Yeah, 17,000. Anyway, this is everything I wanted to talk about regarding the March that you guys asked about. Anyway, let's take a final look on the March. Let me bring back Matilda here, and that you can take screenshot or whatever. Anyway, this is it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and have a wonderful day.